Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, before I proceed, I crave your indulgence to wish a happy belated birthday to two of my biggest, most hard-working supporters. Mr. Elias Cartwright, who on the 7th of February turned 65. We've walked more miles during the campaign. I got to get back to it, Mr. Speaker. I got to drop about 15 pounds. It's political weight you put on. But that's my one of my number one people right there. I don't want to make anyone else jealous, so I say one of my number one, because everybody else is told that they're number one as well. So Michael, I also want to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Jason Cartwright. He celebrated yesterday, and he also turned 65. Mr. Speaker, these are two of the toughest fellas you will find. They were my bodyguards during the campaign. And when you see them, you'll know. You'll know. Two serious fellas. I appreciate them greatly. I'd also like to extend my condolences to the family of Mrs. Sheila Wells. I'm praying for them. May she rest in peace. Mr. Speaker, this weekend in Long Island, we're having the North Long Island High Basketball Jamboree. And everybody is coming to us. I notice that Hugh Campbell is on, but you have teams coming from throughout the archipelago. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, the Long Island teams intend to keep the trophies home. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to commend the police in Long Island. They're having a church service this Sunday, and I applaud them for their efforts on the island. Mr. Speaker, the member for Carmichael is a mentor, a great leader. And I don't think we got to give people their roses while they are among us. And I want us to applaud the member for Carmichael for the great works he has done. Carmichael, Long Island thanks you. And Long Island continues to look for more from you. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of my mentor today. I wholeheartedly support this bill, or this move to amend, this bill to amend the Roads Act. Frankly, I believe that much beyond the utility companies, it imbues a sense of accountability for all. It keeps subdivision developers even, and any other person seeking to excavate roads honest. The amendment to Section 7, wherein the fine levied has been increased from $75 to $10,000, will cause all and sundry to think twice. Frankly, just yesterday I held a meeting with the general manager and those executives responsible for operations at the Water and Sewage Corporation. And I charged those who are charged with oversight of waste and leaks and road reinstatement. Mr. Speaker, I impressed upon them in no uncertain terms that WSC is never, ever to be tagged with a fine of $10,000. And that departmental consequences, given our revamped policies and SOPs that the board will deliberate on at this next meeting, will be instituted and strictly enforced. I want to thank the staff at WSC for their hard work, Mr. Speaker, in the field. But I also want to assure the minister that I don't intend for WSC to pay that $10,000 fine. To those listening at WSC will not, under any circumstances, be committing an infraction. That this member has to come back here, the sitting chairman, with egg on his face. So I applaud you. I implore you all to abide by this act and the SOPs that are to come. Mr. Speaker, frankly, given the amendment to Section 11A, which increases the area to be restored from 20 yards to 100 feet, it is expected that the road network, especially new corridors, would not be ruined going forward, that is, by bumps on uneven patches in the roads soon after roadworks are done. Can you imagine that? You just pave the road, someone comes behind, dig it up, and then they leave a bumpy patch. As a private citizen, prior to being elected to this place, I found nothing more frustrating than going on a newly paved road, only to see utility companies and others digging it up a week or two later, patching it in a hodgepodge, patchwork manner. And Freetown is more than water and sewage. Okay. I call those, Mr. Speaker, road mounts. Similar to the pitcher's mound sitting in the middle of the road. And that made the driving experience most uncomfortable, not to mention defacing a newly paved road. This amendment will call upon road contractors and utilities to ensure that the paved sections blend in, that the new work seamlessly fit into the road as they walk, and that the roads are restored to the previous standard. Mr. Speaker, the new schedule, which features an application for a permit to excavate any public road, which ranges from general excavation to asphalt restoration or landscaping to sidewalks. It also features notices to the COP, the Commissioner of Police, and the granting of an excavation permit will keep all the players accountable, all of us. Now, one would be aware of exactly what the other utility company is undertaking, as opposed to the current guesswork as to whether it's WSC, BPL, Live, Cable, BTC. Mr. Speaker, dug-up roads and potholes are a nagging pet peeve for me. Personnel at WSC can attest to my annoyance when I am driving and noticing open trenches where work has seemingly been completed and the road hasn't been reinstated. Or when I received that call from Minister Bannister highlighting areas he would have driven through and taken notice of the same. I have a low tolerance for potholes and craters in the road, particularly those left by any of the utility companies or contractors. Mr. Speaker, a few years ago I was driving my car and fell into what could only be likened to a crater. That day, though I had limited time and had to return to the office for deadline, both of the tires on the left side of my car were busted. Imagine that. Now, cars only have one dummy tire. Needless to say, that annoyed me to no end. What's more, they were low-profile tires that cost me $140 a piece. So that was $280 I had to spend to have them replaced. Even more, the time lost could never be recovered. We accept that some traffic congestion is avoidable when you're working on the roads. But that too, Mr. Speaker, becomes unbearable if it drags on. Minister, perhaps we should also consider a lane rental scheme involving daily fees for road works on the busiest streets at peak times. Notably, pilots conducted in places like London led to a reduction in traffic jams, given that entities were incentivized to work on quieter roads or outside the rush hour. This would also encourage utility companies to collaborate with each other to stop roads being dug up multiple times. And of course, encourage utility companies and contractors to curtail the time spent in occupation of a lane on any particular road. Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of greater cooperation, we are reaching out to our sister utility companies. I know the minister is a proponent of this as well. I met with the former BPL board with a view to fostering a sense of greater collaboration on multiple fronts, and intend to do so with the current chairman and the board. Such efforts will not be limited to BPL, as we will reach out to the other utility companies to determine areas in which we could collaborate and save on cost. And I'm certain that this will meet the minister's blessing as well. Such costs being like joint fuel purchases, road works, and so on. We also want to see how utilities can collaborate, like I said, relative to the works on the road. We have this frustrating trend where WSC or some other utility would do some works today, fix the road, and another utility comes behind goes to the same place or nearby place, digs up the road. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, road reinstatement contractors executed approximately $975,000 worth of road reinstatement work for WSE. These works were executed by 20 different contractors at the present reinstatement rate of $5 per square foot, which was set by WSE some years ago. The bulk, that is 97% of the $975,000 in work, is attributed to three principal operations at the corporation, namely waste and leaks, or leakage control, mains renewals and long service connections, and new water connections. Waste and leaks took 46%, mains renewals 27%, and new water connections 24%. And if the member for East Grand Bahamas was here, given our budgetary cut last year, Minister, I would have told him that undoubtedly we would need additional funds this budget to supplement our collections drive and our efforts to cut waste and imbue this culture of efficiency at the corporation. Mr. Speaker, the present SOP is that once a WSC team completes work and returns to the JFK compound, all of their completed work orders are closed in city works. And if road reinstatement is required, a road reinstatement work order is generated and forwarded to the road reinstatement coordination team. The road reinstatement coordination team then visits the site, measures and marks out the work to be done, and returns to the office. Works are then batched and assigned to contractors on a rotational and availability basis, but that takes too long. So going forward, Mr. Speaker, it is mandated that work orders will be immediately generated. We don't want to pay that $10,000 fine, Minister. We will be sourcing additional handhelds for the same to be closed in the field upon completion. Mr. Speaker, the present Ministry of Public Works target is that the main road should be reinstated within 48 hours of excavation, and side roads or subdivision roads as promptly as possible. We are revising the SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, at the corporation to improve the timeliness and quality of road reinstatement work, and also to ensure that prior to and during the execution of works, the inconvenience of vehicular traffic is reduced. We have some challenges though, and those challenges include backfilling and compaction capacity, which would require improvement. Quality backfill material is now being purchased on a regular basis. Each of the three major operations that I cited are responsible for roadway excavations. They now have a dump truck, and they are working in conjunction with the Ministry of Public Works Utility Coordination Program. Also, the Ministry of Public Works is coordinating an upcoming training session where WSC will mandate it and will be in attendance. Further WSC investment will be required to purchase the compaction equipment and critical staffing needs with respect to addressing the concerns raised here today. We want to avoid this $10,000 fine, Minister. Minister, we are happy to hear. We're serious about that, Minister. And you know, we're happy to hear that Bahamas is getting a new plant. It works well for us, sir. Given the long list of contractors used by WSC, many of them we found do road reinstatement on a part-time basis and also have other business operations. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, many of the contractors are very small contractors with limited resources, including cash flow, which results in many complaints about WSC's payment timeline. A person submitting a bill today, and tomorrow they're breaking down the door wanting payment. So many of them are unable to execute another job whilst awaiting payment for a prior job. Another issue we have, Mr. Speaker, is that the present requirements of our contractors are limited. There are issues such as minimum installation or day rates, minimum equipment specifications, and flagmen signage and general safety for vehicular traffic. We will be addressing all of those. so that the definitions and the requirements meet the amendments. To improve the timelines and quality of our reinstatement, including improving vehicular conditions prior to and during reinstatement works, the SOP changes at WSC will see the New Providence operations instituting and enforcing revised trench backfilling and compaction requirements for all New Providence operation excavation in conjunction with corporate commitments to fund the human and equipment resource requirements. Obviously, given the limitations on the Family Islands, Mr. Speaker, adjustments will be made, but factors such as availability and the realities on the ground are considerations for future SOPs. And so, Mr. Speaker, to contractors, I say, hear ye, hear ye. You'll be struck off the list if you delay on reinstatement works, if you cost WSC any fines, and if you take a job and don't complete it within the agreed timeline. Hear ye, hear ye. Last night, I reviewed a road reinstatement report citing the works done by all contractors, how much they made, and so on. Mr. Speaker, we are reviewing our list of contractors and the activities of contractors on the list. And this is in conjunction with the Ministry of Public Works. We will also revamp our pre-qualification process. Given the proposed amendments today, WSC will shortlist contractors, leaning particularly towards those who can assure us of immediate mobilization. Contractors would be required to, A, have a dedicated team assigned who can perform the job, B, have a minimum hot box capacity, 10 tons. Given the challenges with having a consistent supply of asphalt, Mr. Speaker, this would allow contractors to store the asphalt, to have the asphalt at the ready, and to be able to work on weekends. One cannot predict when an emergency would happen. C, have a minimum installation rate of, say, 4 tons per day. Have a minimum cash flow capacity. You know, we understand society and the small contractors, but we find that some contractors, Mr. Speaker, don't have the money, and they're delayed due to it. And this delays us with getting our works done. Also, we expect contractors to be responsible for the provision of signage, flagmen, and other safety requirements to meet the Ministry of Public Works traffic management approval. We also expect contractors, I want them all to listen to this, to be responsible for site cleanup within 24 hours of the excavation or the completion of road work. And of course, Mr. Speaker, we are bringing on additional safety managers to ensure that this is done. Minister, we really don't want to pay that $10,000. It must be noted that these changes will not come without some social commentary, and that the present system utilizes many small contractors, and some of these contractors employ men who would be challenged to obtain employment elsewhere for a variety of factors. However, the present WSC practice of using up to 20 different small contractors, some with very limited resources, does not best serve WSC's interests with respect to WSC's responsibility for timely and quality road reinstatement. The revamped policy will also feature departmental consequences and disciplinary action for breaches of protocol. Mr. Speaker, I have directed that a right-sizing exercise of all WSC departments be done in an effort to assess which departments have too many people, which ones are understaffed, and attain a general overview of capacity. I have already seen preliminary reports, and based upon my observations, I have directed that the road reinstatement and construction departments be bolstered, and of course, with consideration for these new fines. No doubt there will be internal transfers However, we will also be hiring qualified and experienced persons to bolster our road reinstatement and construction units. Mr. Speaker, we're looking at contractors who are fully capable of carrying out FDOT reinstatement. That's Florida Department of Transportation reinstatement. The Ministry of Public Works is currently, or will be, undertaking FDOT training for utilities as well as contractors. That training will address backfilling, compaction, and other related matters. I encourage any contractor interested in doing business with WSC to attend. Speaker, I've also directed the WSC purchase 1 or 2 asphalt hot box trailers. See this in my hand? Yes. But you should have a couple of them, man. If not. Also a recycler, Mr. Speaker. A recycler, Mr. Speaker. And then lastly, to purchase test meters. This would equip our in-house teams to mobilize. With respect to the test meter, it would ensure that when roads are compacted, it is at FDOT standard, Mr. Speaker. This would avoid the sinking of the quarry roads or even the paved roads that we've been seeing throughout the archipelago. Along with these purchases, a regimented maintenance plan is being implemented. We're taking a cue from the minister, stealing that idea, and also going to implement a hotline, an email at the corporation. So anyone seeing WSC staff working and leaving the trench open for days and weeks and causing us to have to pay $10,000, please call us, email WSC, contact us via the hotline, and we will address that. We will be sharing those numbers, or that number, and our email in short course. We'll disseminate that widely. WSC will be taking all the requisite steps to ensure that the speed, the reinstatement, and the quality of works are on par. We don't want to be moving quickly and doing subpar work. And I will also be making, along with our GM, unannounced spot checks. Hear ye, unannounced spot checks at all WSC road reinstatement projects. Today, all of us in this place have the ability to make the necessary changes we would wish to see now and when we inevitably return to our lives as private citizens. I applaud the member for Carmichael. Mr. Speaker, I support this amendment.
Thank you, Honourable Member. As many. Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Central and South Albuquerque.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today, as always, on behalf of the good and industrious people of Central and South Albuquerque. Mr. Speaker, the amendment before us today is simple in principle, but